Hi, this is Jonathan from Osiris Media. We're here at Delfest. I'm sitting with Ronnie McCoury and Alan Bartram, and we are excited to be here because hell, we're at Delfest. Why wouldn't we be? How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you, Jonathan?
I'm just great. I'm having a great time. You guys have been on and off stages all day, and you've been probably around all week getting everything going and working with the Academy and all of that. So,
yes, sir.
you know, I've asked most of our guests what they love about Delfest, and I would think that you probably love just about everything about Delfest.
I do, yeah, I do.
And
Alan?
how about yourself?
Yeah. One of the coolest things is when you see people that have been here for year after year. And you may not see them anywhere else during the year, but you see them here, and it's always like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that from Dead shows in the way back. You know, we used to, you know, there's people I always saw at every show, and I didn't even know their name. I didn't know anything about them other than that guy's always there at the East Coast shows.
Right.
You know, I know that guy. You know, and and now some of those folks are here, which is kind of nice.
right.
People have found a new family to congregate with.
That's right, man.
Y'all kindred spirits.
Yeah, indeed. Because it is all about family here at the
We try to
McCoury
keep
Fest.
it that way, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you've been hard at work putting it together. It's not really time to rest, though. You've been on all the stages and playing with a lot of folks. We've talked to a lot of artists about the sit-ins and things, and one of the common things we have here at Delfest is people popping up on stages, and you've already been up on a few. What have been the most fun? Not to put anybody down as the least fun, but you know, what's really getting you? What have you had fun with so far?
You know, I don't know. Every one of them has been fun. You know, we have we're sitting in what we call our it's the late night show building here. So just beyond the wall here, we have late night shows from 12 to 3.
Sometimes 4.
Yeah, sometimes 4.
Yeah, and Larry Keel ran nice and late last night.
Did he?
Yeah,
Did he?
or early, depending on your
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
I didn't make it for that one. I was too pooped. but we did play with Yonder last night. They played here, and
That was fun.
It
was.
was.
So if you asked me, I was going to say that was last night. That was my most fun one. You know,
Yeah.
this weekend.
Great.
So
Yeah, I
far.
saw some photos from that, but that's kind of past my bedtime.
Hey, it is ours too.
that's right.
It's been challenging to make some of those things, but yeah. So I mentioned Grateful Dead, and it was one of the things I'd love to ask you about because I understand you were a fan. You there's a photo hanging somewhere in one of the tents backstage of you with your dad, with Jerry Garcia, and how did you came up in a bluegrass family? How did you end up in the Grateful Dead scene?
Well, I try to keep it short, but I when I started playing the mandolin, and all my buddies, I grew up in Pennsylvania. And a lot of my buddies would say, "Oh, you play the mandolin, huh? Is it like what is it like? The Grateful Dead and Led Zeppelin? You know, 'cause they knew mandolin from that."
Yeah, those are the little popular.
And I said,
niches.
you know, when I was like 15 or 16, something like that, and I didn't know because in my household we listened to bluegrass and mainly country radio. My mother, and so one of my heroes was David Grisman, and he sent these albums to my dad's house when I was about 15 or 16. It had a record called Early Dog, and basically David had 2 sides of the album. The first side was a live show he did with my father in 1966, and then he had other albums of his own music that he put out. It was really a great thing, and he sent it to the house, and I played these records, and so I was a fan of his. And so when I found out about Old and in the Way, you know, well, I kind of knew everybody in Old and in the Way except Jerry Garcia. I didn't know that name.
Cool.
Like I'm a teenager. And so that turned me on to digging more into that, which led to, the mandolin player on the Grateful Dead records is David Grisman. So, you know, we had this, you know, because I had such a love for David, I just wanted to find everything he was on and check it out. And through that, in my later teens, I was playing in I wanted to go see these guys live And so a couple of my buddies were fans. You know, they liked the Dead and rock and roll, and I had never been to any kind of concert like that, really. You know, first concert I went to was Rush when I was about 17 with my buddies, and I couldn't believe all the music coming out of three guys.
Right.
Yeah.
When I saw it, and then I went to the first show. It was at JFK in Philadelphia, and it was the Dead with Dylan.
Great.
You know, and then
Yeah.
they backed up Dylan, and Jerry played the steel guitar. You know, it was a couple nights, and I stayed there. You know, slept in the back of a truck, and you know.
The
You got
real experience.
Exactly, the
Yeah.
full experience.
I did, and you know, and through that, I started to go see them more, and I just, you know, I kind of gravitated to their songs were, you know, just to me, just bluesy folk songs but he had, you know, had this the Garcia backbone to it, you know, where it was, you know, you read everything about him. He loved bluegrass music. So in 1972, my dad was at a festival in Virginia, and David Grisman, who he had met in 1963, they'd longtime friends, brought this guy over to meet my dad, and he told him, he said, "Dylan wants you to meet my banjo player in my band." You know? And so he brought, it was Garcia. And then I'm going to skip ahead because back when I was 20 years old, David Grisman is a real, he knows everything about instruments, and he likes to buy and sell instruments. And it was some side money when you're 20 years old. I was like, oh, this is cool. So I got in my paper at home, and I found these banjos. I went to the place, and I wound up buying these banjos at this guy's house. And I brought them back, and they were old-time open-back banjos is what they call them. And I called David, and I said, well, I don't know what these things, you know, the value of them, you know. And so he kind of told me what they're worth, you know, and he said, hey, you know, Garcia might want to buy those. And I said, really? It was all because of him. And and so, you know, I'd already been to a couple shows and been backstage and got to meet him, you know, through a guy named Tom Venom, who worked at the Smithsonian. He was he would go to places like Haiti and record drumming music. He was native music, mainly drums. And because he did that, Mickey Hart became a fan of his writing and his, you know, the history he was doing. So that's how they met. And we played in Washington, D.C. at the mall at the National Folk Festival, and Tom was running the stage we were on. And we were talking about the Grateful Dead, and he said, hey, man, do you want to go? I said, yeah, I'm planning on going. He said, no, I'll call Dennis, who was the road manager, you know. And
Dennis McNally,
yeah.
I've spoken with him. He's a good guy.
Yes, he is. And I went down there. There's tickets at will call. Next thing I know, I'm backstage, and then I'm meeting Jerry Garcia. That was the first time we got to meet him. And when I bought these banjos about a year or two later, David said he might be interested in them. So I get a call from Garcia. And he said, yeah, come on down and bring them to the show. And that was at the Capitol Center, D.C. So I went down, and I took my dad, and my brother went, my sister went, my wife went. We all went down there. And Hornsby was in the band. And we went backstage and just had a great, they just finished their sound check. Was listening a little bit of that, and they, anyhow, I sat there and we talked for a long time. My dad and he reminisced, and, you know, it was really a great time.
Yeah, gentlemen, I'm going to stop taking up your time. I want to thank you so much for coming. We're going to get back to having all the fun here at Delfest and
Yeah,
go
me
see some
too.
music. And, thanks so
John.
much for your time.
Thanks for having us, Jonathan. Appreciate it.